Yeah, I think, could you imagine though? Could you imagine how awesome the world would be? Let's not even get to the world, like even just your community, the community, like your friends, your family, if everyone was firing on all cylinders, just doing what they were good at.
Hey everybody, this is Caller ID. We're calling about your identity, your direction, and what you're doing with your life. I'm Brandon Davis Wells. Let's dig into what we're really doing here. Today on Caller ID, I'm joined by someone I've known since sixth grade, a longtime friend who has taken a few different routes in his career and things you might not predict from a middle school hallway back at Bullock Junior High in Cuyahoga Falls, Ohio. He's a serial entrepreneur who built and rebuilt companies and ideas and done all kinds of things, taken real risks. He's learned the hard way, the easy way, and every way in between that success isn't necessarily linear. Along the way, Keith has served as a firefighter running toward emergencies while most people are running away from them. Today, he's also married to an ER doctor, a relationship that I would tell you my mother thinks that she is 100% successful. It's her. Yeah, it's up to her that she set it up. This conversation, though, isn't just about business or career pivots. It's about identity, pressure, calling, how life shapes us through seasons of service, risk, responsibility. So if you're out there and you're chasing an idea, or you're thinking about taking some calculated risks, or you're questioning your path, or you're just trying to make sense of the road that you're on, I think you'll hear yourself in this story, and I think you'll appreciate it. Keith Saffles, thank you for answering the call, my old friend.
That's so good to see you. I
It is.
miss you.
I miss
I
you
miss
as well.
seeing you. Sixth grade, huh? That was what, 20 years ago?
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, that
yeah.
sounds right. We'll stick
Maybe
with that.
double that, but that's all right.
Yeah, that's okay. When speaking of the old days, when you were, I won't go back to sixth grade, but when you were in high school or starting to get towards college, and you went to Cornell, what were you thinking that you would be doing, and how different is that now than it was 30 years ago?
Vastly different. I think the major difference, it's funny, the major difference lies in expectations. So I think it's sometimes an expectation you're expecting to live up to others' expectations, but then as you get older, you're like, huh, that's really stupid. But no, back when I went to college, pre-med, that's what I was going to do. At the time, my dad had just died. Like once high school was over, he had died. Spent a bunch of time in the hospital over a month or two and thought, hey, I could do this. This seems interesting. I'd like this to be my life's work. And so I went and it was a biology major and thought I'm gonna be pre-med. And part of it is there's this stupid thought like, yeah, that's the right thing to do. If I can do that, that's a good job to have. So I get to school, I start taking some classes. I take the normal biology and all those classes, and they're fine. It's what you expect. And at Cornell, there's a hotel school there, and it's a school that's built around basically the hotel business, all hospitality management, restaurants, hotels, anything like that. I took a business class in that school. It's just one of the electives I wanted to take, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. It felt like it was just talking to my soul. And so I was like, this is what I'm going to do. To get in, it's funny, to get into the school. So at Cornell, you have to apply to different schools like arts and science. They're each at their own school. So I had to actually
Sure.
apply as a transfer student.
Okay.
So no real guarantee of getting accepted. Part of it is you also have to have past work experience in the field. Well, I had just like spent that last summer working as a server. So I was like, does that count? They're like, yes, it counts. I'm like, yes, this is going to work. So I go through the whole application process and I get to the interview and the guy it's interviewing me, he's like, super nice, great interview. But he asked me, he goes, why do you want to do this?
That's a valid question.
It's a very valid question. And I really didn't know. All I know is it just felt right with my soul. So I said, think this is where God wants me to be. And then a half second later, I'm like, oh, crud, did I just say the wrong thing? What's this guy going to think of that? Like, and he just looked at me and just nodded his head. He's like, good answer. I'm like, okay. So it worked. Did that for the rest of my rest of college. To me, I think it really got me thinking about where my heart lies with life. It's a combination of service and business, and that's what I've always loved. Like those are two things I love. And so that was the perfect combination. There was a service aspect and there was a business aspect, and it was great. Yeah, I did that. Thought I was going to work in restaurants after I got out, and I did for a little while, and then realized, boy, that stinks.
A
But
lot of nights, a lot of weekends, a lot of
oh
tough
yeah, oh
hours, tough
yeah, yeah. Oh,
customers always right.
it's a singles person's life. I mean, I
Yeah.
couldn't imagine doing it married with kids.
When you introduce yourself now to people, and they ask you, "What do you do?" How do you answer that question, and what do you want them to take away from it?
That's such a loaded question, and I hate that question.
Well,
I
and that's
really
why.
do. I try not to ask it. I
Me
mean,
too.
and I'm sure you do. I try not to ask it because it's a stupid question.
I've
Like,
started asking people, Keith, "Hey, what do you do for fun?" Right now,
yeah,
because
yep,
eventually you're
yep.
going to find out what they do,
Yeah.
or you're in a situation where you meet so many people in a work environment anyway, or it comes up naturally.
My go-to is usually, so are you from around here? Did you grow up around here?
Mm,
And that usually gets them talking about themselves, and that's always, more fun to hear about themselves than what they do. And it's funny because you'll go through a whole conversation with someone you just met and never once ask them what they do,
yeah,
and they think you're a real weirdo. But I think they secretly appreciate it though,
I think you're
because
right.
yeah, they think you're a weirdo.
When you got out of the restaurant business, was that when you went into firefighting and you said, "I'm going to go be a firefighter," or what was that transition like? What did you do next?
No, actually, I ended up going to work in mortgages for a little while. It was one of those, man, I can't do this. Hey, I got a buddy that's making good money selling mortgage. Well, I'm gonna go do that. And it was good money.
Yeah.
It was another soul-sucking job. I did not like it, but my uncle was a firefighter, and so I'd hear his stories all the time whenever we get together, and I was like, man, that'd be great. So he said, like, hey, there's a test coming up. They only do it every 2 or 3 years or whatever, and you should go take it. Like, okay. So I did, and I mean, the rest is sort of history there. Did
So
that
you,
for about 5 years.
and then
Yeah,
so you get out of firefighting. And since then, I know some of the details, but not all
I
of
know.
them. And you don't
I
have to
know.
get into all the details, but I called you a serial entrepreneur in the open, and I think that that's a title that is, I don't know, it can be challenging. What
It's,
do people misunderstand about that? What does that mean? You love to start businesses, and clearly you're okay with risk. Why is that?
I don't know. It's how God made me. Seriously.
Yeah.
He did not make my wife like that, and it drives her nuts. But that's the way marriage is. It's the opposites attract thing. It is very true. Why is that? I don't know. I keep coming back to I love business. I love service. I think on the fire department, I love the service aspect, but it was also what'll burn you out too.
No pun
Yeah,
intended.
no pun intended. But I think I'm also driven by challenges. That's another thing I've really learned about myself is I love problem solving. And so I also look at, if you were to ask me essentially what a business is,
Yeah.
it's one big problem to solve, really. If you can solve the problem well, you'll be successful. And if you can't, then you won't. And sometimes there's not really a problem there to solve. People just want to bring a solution for no problem. And so really, to me, business, if you boil it down, is just problem solving in different forms, aspects.
What's the most what did you enjoy the most? Is there anyone that you kind of, I won't say necessarily regret, but you miss
Hmm.
running or being in charge of?
Different things for different reasons, I guess. I actually miss being a firefighter. I say that
Really?
all the time. Yes,
Yeah.
I actually really miss it. There's a camaraderie that goes with it that you just can't. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like being paid to belong to a fraternity.
Mm.
Is what it feels like, and it was great. I mean, and then when you do have to go work, it's with an axe and you get to smash things and break things. You're like, this is fun. So I miss that, but well, I'll give you sort of a quick rundown of where I've been.
Well,
I
and
think.
let me interrupt for a second because I can relate to that. I think that it's part of learning about who you are, right? And
Mhm.
discovering, exploring, figuring out who you are. One of the things that I have missed in some of my work opportunities and is that when there's not a tight knit group, a fraternity of brothers and sisters that you love and want to spend time with, and you go into work and you say, "This isn't work. I'm getting
Hmm.
paid. It's a job, but
Hmm.
this is not difficult work because I'm with people I want to be with every day." I've had some great opportunities like that. I was at the Croc
Hmm.
Center and the Salvation Army in Ashland with just a fantastic group of folks, and I was able to partially assemble that group too, right? But when you know that about yourself, like I love to be in that team environment, and I know that going forward.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, it's funny because I think every step along the way, I have learned something more about myself, and that just sort of helps to contribute to where you're going. if you let it. And that's the key is if you let it. I think a lot of times there's a resistance to either live up to someone else's expectations or, gosh, even your own expectations. You may set these expectations for yourself like, well, this is what I do. Is it really? And you look back and you're like, where was I the happiest? Where was I the best? Where was I the most successful? And that doesn't even mean money, just in terms of what just clicked, sometimes. And if you can learn as you go, I think even Steve Jobs said is like you look back and you can see that line, but it was just dots in the past, all dots eventually are a line that just leads you somewhere. And when you're at each of these dots, you're like, huh, where am I going? But you gotta trust it's going to lead you somewhere. I think that's really what I've done with a lot of my life.
Yeah.
Drives my wife nuts, like I said, but I just believe that, if where I'm at is where I'm supposed to be, and it'll be okay.
And
Even if
those
it's not okay, it's going to be okay for a reason.
and those entrepreneurial adventures, you were going to sort of dive into what that's looked like and the things that you've loved doing, and take us through what that's looked like and some of the decisions you've had to make on why you chose certain things, what you
Yeah.
loved, what you didn't.
Yeah, I think I mean I've always been sort of entrepreneurial since I was a kid. I was the kid that would be out, you know, mowing yards and shoveling snow when I was 12 and I paid for my own car when I was 16 and I remember people like, "You're rich." I'm
I
like,
remember that Mazda.
"No, I've been." You remember the Mazda?
I
Yes.
do.
That was a good car. So I've just always been that way. I think that's just the way I was made. So it's always been something along those lines. And really where I would say my entrepreneurial career really started was probably at the fire department. So you're on 24, you're off 48. You got a lot of time off. We did not have kids for part of the time, and my wife would work. So I'm like, well, I got to do something. So my cousin and I started a company, a medical supply company. We sold diabetic supplies and it just took off. Like it really took off. We were selling supplies in like all 50 states. We had like 50,000 patients. It just took off. And at the time we had 20 some employees and I'm still working as a firefighter. And I'm like literally just going from that job, driving to an office, spending the whole day there, sometimes sleeping there for a while so I could get up and keep working. It was too much. We were just starting to have kids. I'm like, something's got to give. They offered to buy out the fire department about that time. I was like, okay, maybe this is my sign. So I took it and moved on. And I did that for another few years, and it was great. I actually really miss it. There was a lot of things I learned on about business with that. After that, I started started a candy company.
You're going from this is a
I'm going from
classic
diabetic
switch.
supplies to candy. Yes, oh yeah, people
If you
love
had
that.
kept both, you would have
I
been on both
know,
ends of the
I know,
diabetes.
I know. People love the juxtaposition of that. Yeah, so I made chewing gum. It was just a harebrained idea where I'm like, you can get candy in all these different flavors. You can get things in all kinds of flavors. Like, why is there not a lot of chewing gum in different flavors? Like you got mints, you got cinnamon, you
Yeah,
got fruit stripes, which stink.
yeah. Then you have
But
bubble gum flavored bubble gum, which I don't trust people who chew that.
yeah, yeah, I agree. There's something sketchy about those people. So we figured out a way to make gum in like 100 different flavors. We made it in very small batches. It was a unique way of making gum. I think that was probably more of an experiment, but just being bullheaded enough, we just kept pushing and pushing and pushing, and we had some success. We had some sales with it. We ended up actually in all of the Toys R Us in Canada. So
Hmm.
like in 100 different Toys R Us throughout Canada, we were selling our gum. So I had to learn a lot about like importing and exporting food stuff and
Yeah,
just learned a ton. That was fun. Actually, I think that was fun because my kids were young at the time.
yeah.
So they thought it was the greatest thing in the world. Their
You're the
dad had a
candy
chewing
man.
gum go, oh yes, they
Yeah,
loved it. And
yeah.
we actually, even outside our old like manufacturing spot, we had a gum wall. So like the one wall of this building, I would just let people put gum on. So after they were there, they put gum. We even ended up on the news, I think, with the gum wall. And my kids were like all proud, like, hey, look, this is awesome. We're allowed to put gum on the wall. They just thought it was the coolest thing. Gosh, other things I've done. Worked on some software ideas, never really got that off the ground. There's an idea I had in terms of it was almost software dealing with EMS, pitched it to Akron General, local hospital. They liked the idea. Actually, the chief medical officer thought it was great. He's like, I'd love to do this. And then I learned about the bureaucracy of hospital systems and
Yeah,
how it's almost impossible to sell into them. And so
yeah.
spun my wheels on that for a while, done some other things. It wasn't too long after that, I actually got a chance to go back and work in healthcare again from a business aspect. So my buddy had a fairly large healthcare software company at the time, and he had this thought of, why don't we start other companies? was like, okay, that sounds like fun. What I started was a what you call a venture studio or a startup studio. So it's in the venture capital realm to where, like raise money. It's something a lot of people have heard of like Y Combinator. It's something in those sort of veins, but what we did was we actually would find a person, find an idea, put them together, and then I had a team of like 12 people, and we would help them actually start their company. We'd spend a good 6 months to 12 months with them, really getting it off the ground until they went and raised their first round of fundraising. Then we sort of kicked them out of the nest. We did over 2 years, we started 8 companies. They were all in healthcare technology. Started 8 companies over 2 years. I think four of them, maybe five. I'd have to go back and look. I think four of them are still operating. This was from a few years ago, which
Yeah.
honestly is not too bad. One of them actually did go through Y Combinator, which is very impressive because it's hard to get in and hard to get through there. It was so much fun. So I think I took some of those scars I had from trying to sell into healthcare myself,
Yeah.
and I understood it. I'm like, we even called it the valley of death. Like there's this valley of death where you get a yes, and then between a yes and something actually materializing is the valley of death to
Yeah.
where you're going to spend 2 years in all your capital and you're just going to die before you actually even get something out the door. No matter how much someone was interested in it, it was very eye-opening to see like just the bureaucracy of healthcare, the size of healthcare. I mean, it's huge. There's a lot
Yeah.
of waste. But all the companies we started were in that with the idea of let's change it and some really good ideas. Gosh, that was tons of fun. I've always loved real estate. I think I
How did you
like,
get into that? Because you had to have raised the capital at some point to say like, oh,
yeah,
yeah, whatever, and then you said, okay, I've set this aside. I mean, real estate is one of those things that people always say if you can get into, it's great,
yeah, I
but
think
there's
so.
risk.
There is risk. There's definite risk. I think, anyone that I ever talk to that's thinking about doing it, I always tell them, I'm like, find your niche and just work that niche. Don't try to do everything. Don't try to do commercial and then apartment buildings and then, single family homes. Like you just pick the one thing that you're going to get good at and just get good at that and just stay in that vein and you'll be okay.
Hmm.
There's some people that can make a killing and do very well with like 30-unit apartment buildings, and there's other people that'll lose their shirt in 6 months. Same building. It just depends on, who you are and how you manage it. But
I feel like broadcasting is like that. There's some folks that I've seen that are really good at broadcasting certain sports. They're
mhm.
great at basketball or they're great at
Yep.
baseball or football, but you put them in another sport and it's
Yep.
like,
That's probably a
oh,
very good analogy. I can see that.
what's a couple takeaways that you've had that you think, like, boy, I wish I had known this when I was 25 or 30 about starting a business, or what wisdom do you have for people that are thinking about taking risks with when it comes to their careers or starting a business?
Let's start with the risk one, and
Yeah.
then I'll come back to what, how you think about it. The risk one is it's never just a wonton, flat out 100% risk. It's always got to be a calculated risk. And what I would tell anyone that's thinking about starting a business is there's always a way to test your hypothesis on the cheap. Almost always. There's ways to do it, especially anymore with the technology we have. I mean, if you want to sell gum, let's
Yeah.
say, let's just use
Yeah. Yeah.
that. And you're like, hey, I want to see what anyone buy this. Put a website up. Do a little, I mean, social media is so easy to access anymore. You can have ChatGPT write you a website in 30 seconds, literally.
Yep.
And for $100 or less, you can test your hypothesis and see if it's going to work. So there's definite ways to test your premises, test your hypothesis, and see. And then, it's always a calculated risk. But if you can take away half of that risk just by testing, it puts you so much farther ahead. That's probably one bit of advice I would give to someone thinking about just going out and doing something like that. The other thing probably along with that is people love to help. People really do love to help. So if you can find yourself someone that's in that business or a mentor or just someone that can like, work through ideas with you, that helps immensely.
Hmm.
People love to help. I mean,
Who's helped you?
they really
Who,
do.
who have you had in your life and your career and some of these ventures that they've helped you?
That's a good question. No one. No, I think it's funny because I think it probably depends on different times of where I'm at. But I've always had one good friend that I made probably about 15 years ago. His name's Sean. We just hit it off. We ended up buying a cottage up on Lake Erie probably about
Yeah.
15 years ago, and he had one up there, and I met him. And this was, I think, about the time I had the gum company. So he's like, "So what do you do?" And I'm like, "Okay." So I told him. He's like, "Is that a hobby?" We're messing. I'm like, "No, you idiot. That's what I
This
do."
is my full-time
He's like,
job,
"Oh,
jerk.
okay." He is very out there in terms of he's just like me in a lot of ways. He's very entrepreneurial. He's very good at it. And he just the way he thinks about things is so different than most people that it but he's a great person to talk to and bounce things off of. And we always talk a lot about things. And we're actually doing something together now. And we have done stuff over the years as well. He was actually the one that I went and did the startup studio with
Nice.
at his company.
Yeah.
So he's always been, for the last 15 years, he's been a great bouncing pad, I think, for ideas and just for talking through things. The honest truth of it, though, is sometimes you have to know, like, okay, will I take this advice or will I not take it? Because some of his advice is just crazy. You're
Yeah.
like, what? And so if he said that, I'm gonna go do the opposite. So at least I've learned over the years, like, he does this, I'll do this. It seems to work for both of us,
Yeah. It has
but
to be your
it's been
style.
it's been a good, I think it's someone that gets me and he really truly gets me, which is good. I don't have to explain myself first. He just sort of gets where I'm coming from.
Yeah. It's hard to find people that get
Yes.
you. And when you
Yes.
do, whether it's a
Yes.
mentor, a friend, a partner, a spouse, boy, don't let go.
Yes. No, yes, it's true. It's true because I'd love to talk to my wife more about things, and I do. I talk to her about everything. It's just sometimes she's like, "Why would you do that? Like, you don't get it. This is awesome. This is gonna be amazing. Don't you see it?" She's like, "No." He's like,
So
"Okay, whatever."
you're married to an ED doctor. I mean, somebody who's living with risk and pressure at all
Yeah.
times, and you're
Yeah.
an entrepreneur. How does that work? Because you guys both live in such intense vocational weight, really, at all times.
It's a good question. I think, is where we're at. What are we, 33 now?
Yeah, yeah, sure.
Yeah, something like that. Right? Sixth grade, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Um, no, I mean, as we approach 50 here, she probably doesn't like me saying that.
That's all right.
It's a job that will burn you out, and she's getting tired. And it's fine, and I understand that. Like it's a lot. It's a grind.
Yeah.
So I think she's anxious to shift gears, and I think she's going to here over the next couple of years. It's all about, I guess, keeping it in perspective.
Mm,
She is great at her job. She's amazing at her job.
yeah.
And it's not because she knows a lot of stuff about medicine. She's just really good with people.
Mm,
And that's 80% of her job. Like just be good to people and the rest of it you'll figure out. Like, I
mm,
mean, you can figure, and that's why she's really good at her job. And so if she does bring home struggles, it's usually around the people aspect, someone that may have died or something that, and so, I mean, I guess you just know it's just part of what you do,
yeah.
and you got to find ways to work through it.
Have you ever stayed in a business or a role longer than now looking back, longer than you should have because you felt like it was failure if you bailed?
Oh, of course. Yes. A lot of things.
Really?
Yes. Oh, yes. I think if you would talk to a lot of like entrepreneurial minded people, they have the same problem I have, and it's called like the shiny object syndrome,
Mm.
to where you're like, okay, I've got a good thing going. Oh, wait, what's over here? Oh, look at that. That could be awesome. And you like go and chase this idea, and you're chasing that idea, and you've got like 13 irons in the fire, and you're like, I need to learn how to say no. And so I guess along the same lines as that question is, I've gotten better at saying no.
Yeah.
But yes, that's because I think maybe I haven't stayed too long. It's just I've probably chased too much.
Hmm.
Just because I think everything's awesome and I want
Yeah.
to chase it.
Yeah.
And I need to really double down on the things that are good for me and my family, just the things that are right.
It's hard.
It
Yeah.
is hard. It's hard because I really want to do 28 different things, and
Me
it because there's so much stuff that looks cool out there.
Me too.
And so I think the hardest part is actually saying no. I've gotten much better at that. I've really feel like this last year or two has been a year or two of like sort of self introspection in terms of I don't know if it's maybe because I'm going to be 50 here in a year or two,
Yeah.
or my kids are moving off in a couple years. I don't know
Yeah.
what it is, but you really sort of stop and you're like, I'm about halfway through life, at least through my sort of working productive life maybe, and
Yeah.
what do I want the rest of it to look like? Or what do I want to look like? And so it's all been a lot of questioning and it's been good, actually. I think I've come to answers, but I think we'll go back to that first part of that question. We had asked that two-pronged question.
The second part was about risk.
Risk. The first part was how do you know? It was along
Yes.
the lines of how do you know what was right?
Yeah.
I guess let me take you through the philosophy I've come through.
Yeah.
So we're going to step back and this is going to be a little bit of philosophizing on this.
I love it.
Um,
That's what we're here for.
yeah. Okay, good.
Yeah.
After I did the startup studio, I started to, my friend and I, or my old partner there, we're going to start a venture fund. We wanted to start a venture fund, basically raise money and invest it in other companies because it was the same thing we were sort of doing already, but it was going to be almost like a Christian based one. And I'm going to use that lightly because our idea wasn't even to invest in quote unquote Christians. It was let's do things that sort of further the kingdom in our mind. And let's not be so hung up on that title or who they are. But during that time, I thought a lot. It really got me thinking a lot about like, well, we're looking at these founders, we're looking at like, you know, people of faith that are, Christians or whatever. And like, how does that work? How does work and your faith come together?
Great question.
I really thought, a lot about we're actually going to call ourselves 210 Ventures after Ephesians 2:10. And the idea is that you're made in the image of God. You have a purpose, and that really has been sort of a resounding thought in my life ever since. It's sort of taken on I don't know if I'd say a life of its own, but it sort of has become, it's developed and matured, I guess. So
Yeah.
it's easy to say we're built in the image of God. What does that mean?
Yeah.
Well, do I look like God? I don't know. Probably. We'll find out someday, I
Yeah.
guess. But when you start thinking about that, I was even thinking about that in church today. Like, does God ever really worry about himself, or is he just out loving other people?
Huh.
And I'm like, I think he's out loving other people. He's not really worried about himself. Like, he doesn't care what his title is or what, what I mean? I mean, he's God, which is a
Yeah.
pretty good title, but
He's got a lot of titles.
I'm built in his image. I should actually be more like that, That's the way I should be. And then you're built for a purpose. I mean, it's pretty clear. But I think the word purpose has just taken on a life of its own over the last, I don't know, so many
Yeah.
years or whatever.
Probably since
And
Rick
it's,
Warren in the purpose-driven life and that
yep,
whole sort of
yep.
push. Yeah.
And it sounds great, like, oh, what's my purpose in life? I think that's one of the most misleading things we can do anymore, to be honest with you. And
I
I've
agree.
come to that through trial and error.
Yeah.
And I think it's actually the result of choosing to do the things you were made to do. So you're almost chasing the end result and not taking the journey that it takes to get you there, if that makes sense. For instance, I think if anyone wants to know what they should be doing with their life, and this I tell my kids, and this I tell anyone anymore, what are things that fulfill you? Just find something that fulfills you. Like, what is something you've done to where 4 hours may go by and you're like, oh my gosh, it felt like 5 minutes, like those kind of things. And everyone has those moments. And it could be
Sure.
something like,
Yeah.
working on a car to like stamp collecting or whatever.
Yeah.
And even if it's stamp collecting, which I don't know why I picked stamp collecting, but it's stamp collecting, you got to look at that and go, what is it about this that fulfills me? And there's an answer in there.
There
And
is.
that's how you were made. And so if you start to chase that and pull on those strings, I guarantee you will become very excellent at whatever it is that fulfills you. And then that excellence is going to continue to like lead you into, there's a purpose
Mhm.
here.
Yeah.
Oh, and then it's revealed to you. And
You're
so
right.
I just tell people like, what fulfills you? And then, I mean, the sister brother answer to that is, what are you good at? Because I think a lot of times those things go hand in hand.
Not
And
always,
those,
but yes.
not always, but yes. And the other thing I've learned too is when you ask yourself, what am I good at? Ask other people. They know better than you do.
Oh yeah.
It's so much, ask people that know you, what am I good at? And they'll be like, you're good at this. You're like, I never thought about that. Oh yeah, you're the best I've ever known at that. You're like, I never would have thought of that.
It's a
So
vulnerable place to be to ask people, and I will tell
it
you
is, it's very vulnerable.
well, and on this show we talk about this all the time. Is that there's four things that the concept of ikigai is a little bit what you're talking about. This Japanese concept I talk about on everybody that's listening is like, all right, Wells, enough ikigai. But it's something something that you love, something you're good at, something you can make money at, and something the world needs. Like, and where where those four come in the middle is
Yep.
somewhat of what you're talking about. But Dr. Jason Barnhart, a friend of mine who's been on the show, talks about what Frederick Buechner said. Your calling is where your greatest passion basically meets the world's greatest need in the middle.
Hmm.
And that's sort of what you're saying.
Hmm.
And for some of us, it has taken us a long time to figure out what that looks like because
You're not taught growing up to pursue your passion, like or not even your passion, or the things that that you find fulfilling.
yeah,
I mean,
right.
if that was the case, I wouldn't have taken like English in high school. Like, I don't find that fulfilling, but I was told I had to,
Right.
like be a good
Yeah.
student.
Yeah.
And to be a good, productive citizen, you have to go to college or whatever these prescriptive things are.
But the path is never linear, and you've said it. Like
No,
you've
that's
you've
not
done a
linear.
bunch of different things, and still hopefully have a lot of life left to live and a lot of things to
I
do.
hope so.
I hope so too, right? Like, I mean, we don't know. No, none of our days are
Well,
promised.
I hope so.
And I think the idea that there's one role or one path
No, there isn't.
is
And the
false.
same thing is, I don't think there's one purpose either.
I
I
don't
think
think so either. That's where I was
you
getting
either have
back to.
multiple purposes or like there's branches of the same purpose.
Yeah,
And I think it becomes the mistake to look at, well, what's my purpose? And it's a singular thing and it's one thing and you're going to spend your whole life trying to figure that out. And
I can
it's
I can
there
take
is
it.
one,
I
but you're going to
can
spend your life trying to figure it out and it doesn't
100%.
work.
And
And
it
I've done that myself and I've spent years and I finally came back to the idea that what do I find fulfilling? Because those are the things I'm good at,
yeah. Why
you
should I
know?
waste any other time doing anything else?
And it's not a selfish thing either.
Oh,
This is how I was made. I may find stamp collecting fulfilling, but no one else does. But you know what? I don't know if we need stamp collectors,
I
but
think it's
I
the
keep
opposite.
coming back to that
Yeah.
stupid example. I got to find
No,
a better one.
I think
What's a
it's
better one?
antique doorknobs. There is no
Yes,
worse one.
yes,
But I
yes.
think it's the opposite of selfish. I think it's
It's
very
true.
selfless
That's very true.
because if you're giving yourself away
Yep,
to the community and to the world with what you're good at, that's where you're supposed to be, right? Like that's
yep.
not selfish in any means, but there is a sense even within the Christian faith sometimes where I think growing up in that I was taught that like I wasn't taught that, I will say. I wasn't
Hmm.
necessarily taught
Yeah,
that like doing these things that you're good at, whether it was broadcasting or coaching or whatever, is not like that's, you have to be a pastor or you have to be this
yep.
or you have to be
You
that.
gotta be a
Like,
missionary and go be poor your whole life or
yeah,
whatever.
I
Yes.
don't think that's
Yeah.
fair. I think it does harm.
Some of the most generous people I know are also some of the most wealthy. And they like you ask them and they're like, yeah, I earned money so I can give it away.
Yeah.
But it sort of goes against the whole idea. Like you do as a Christian growing up, you sometimes think, well, there's nobility, there's honor in being poor and like, just sort of barely making it. And I'm not saying there isn't being wealthy. It's just that whatever you're good at, and if you allow God to use it, he'll use it.
Well, I think that purpose revolves around whether you're Buddhist, whether you're atheist, whether you're Christian, anywhere in between. I think the purpose is to love people,
That's
right?
it. It's that simple. It's that simple. I mean, it's very simple. But don't get me started. Don't get me started. If you start re-examining life on that aspect, there's a lot of things that would change. There's a lot of things that should change personally within churches, a lot of things,
How we
but
spend our
it's
money at churches.
how we spend our money, how we spend our time, what we even think. Once again, going back to being made in the image of God, like God doesn't sit and think about himself. He thinks about loving people, literally. Yeah, I think, could you imagine though? Could you imagine how awesome the world would be? Let's not even get to the world, like even just your community, the community, like
Oh,
your friends, your family, if everyone was firing on all cylinders, just doing what they were good at and not doing what they thought they should be doing or not doing, if they
yeah,
just did what they were good at, it would be amazing. It
yeah.
would be amazing. And I think that's sort of what the whole idea of the Ephesians 2:10 was, is that yes,
And,
this is heaven on earth. This is the kingdom on earth if we're all doing what we find fulfilling and we're good at.
and I think Keith, that's the reason I started this podcast was to try
Yeah,
to help people twofold. Number one, because I feel like I have a gift of broadcasting and asking questions. But number two is because I think we can do that, right? We can
we
help
can do
people
that.
learn from
Yep,
each other
yep,
and
yep,
bring out the best in each other. And it
yep,
might
yep.
sound pie in the sky. It might sound,
No, I
really
know. Yeah, you're
intangible,
right.
but
You're right. Yeah, and when you do say that to most people, they're like, oh, whatever. But it's true. It's very true.
what was your first job?
Actual job, like a
Yeah,
like
yeah, sure.
W-2 kind of
Yeah,
job.
and I mean, other than like mowing yards and
I
shoveling
was
snow.
13 and washing dishes. And I wasn't allowed to because I was still too young. I couldn't get a work permit, but it was someone I knew that owned a restaurant and he wanted me to wash dishes and he paid me $3 an hour under the
Big
table.
money. Big money.
Big money. But at 13, I was like, that's cool.
Did you get a
So
free meal out of it?
yeah, he'd feed me. Like at the end of the night, whatever he had sort of had left over, I'd eat it. So you probably know the restaurant too. Neither here nor there. Like, I mean, it's fine. No, it's fine. It just at 13, I was like, yeah, I'll take the job. So,
What's the shortest you've ever been on a job? Like, do you ever
oh
leave a job
gosh.
after one day and you're like, yeah, I'm out of here?
I don't know. I
I,
don't have an answer for
I,
that.
I
Honestly, I don't know.
okay. All right. I worked
Yeah.
I worked for UPS for one day.
I would probably do the same thing. Loading boxes. Is that what you're doing?
I was a driver's helper on one of those Christmas breaks from Ohio
Oh
University,
my.
and they called me once. They're supposed they like it's kind of a at will. They'll call you if they
Yeah.
need you. They called me
Yeah.
once. I got the gear. I had the big brown jacket and the brown pants, and I looked like UPS guy, right?
That's awesome. I
Well,
hope you kept it.
here's the deal. So you don't get paid unless you give that stuff back at the end of the, like they hold one of your paychecks. Well, I only had
Oh,
one paycheck. I only
well,
worked one day, so I kept it and I ended up giving that to my brother for
that's
Christmas
cool.
because he wanted it for snowboarding.
Very cool. Sure.
Let's go back to one of the original questions. Since we're way off the rails.
Way off the
What
rails.
do you do for fun? That's the question that I often ask people now. What do you do for fun?
So let me bring you up to where I'm at now. And I think this is the same answer. It's just it's going to give you probably a longer version of it. I was planning on starting a new company last fall. All right. And there was an idea I had when it was going through the motions, was going to start it with someone. It's already doing something in the same vein. So it's in military space, doing like a military company. Idea. He liked it. He's been running his own company for 20 years, and we're like, well, let's just sort of partner up on this. And great idea. He went away. He's like, hey, when I get back, I'll call you and we'll figure this out. Well, came back, he never really called me.
Hmm.
And I sort of called and nothing came of it. And I was like, dang it, you know what? This just isn't, I don't know. I mean,
Yeah,
I
not
can
meant
do
to
this on
be.
my own. I just don't know if this is going
Yeah,
to work. So I started really sort of reevaluating, and this was like a time where I'm like, you go through all these questions, like, okay, start back. What do I find fulfilling? What am I good at? Who's going to pay me for it? Like,
yeah,
your answers start looking at all these questions. And one, I just sort of figured, well, I'm going to double down on my real estate because that's always been a good, solid thing for me. But it doesn't take up all my time. So I'm like, what else am I gonna do? So the thing I like doing for fun is I really have discovered I like making almost art, which is so weird.
tell me
I
more.
like I like sculpting. I
Yeah,
like making things out of stone. I like making things out of metal and wood. And I like combining them, like the three into like one. So like I'll make something out of wood, but I may pour like molten metal into it to like shape it and change it. Or
yeah.
like I started by making fountain pens out of stone. Like I'm like, does anyone make pens out of stone? I'm like, I don't see any. I'm like, I'm gonna try to make a pen out of stone. And I was able to do it. And I
Wow.
started making a bunch of them. Yeah. And so I gave some out for like Christmas a couple years ago. And this year this was the year of the knives. Like I made a whole bunch of like kitchen knives this year, like
Cool.
custom kitchen knives and blocks. And it was fun. So, I'm like, I love doing this. I love it. This is one thing I find so fulfilling. I'm gonna do this. I'm like, I'm gonna start selling this stuff. I'm gonna make it and I'm gonna sell it. I'm gonna do it. I don't necessarily need the money. I've got my business that's fine.
Yeah.
I had the support of my wife. She's like, yeah, I can see you doing this. Like, go for it. Because I mean, to tell someone that you want to do art for a living, they
Yeah.
think you're an idiot.
Oh,
And
listen.
so, I mean, and I call it functional art because they're things that like you're going to use. They're
Yeah, yeah,
like shaving kits and knives and
yeah.
pens but I also want them to be beautiful, like things of beauty, like really interesting and unique. It was actually very hard. It was very vulnerable to do that because
Yeah.
like
Art is very vulnerable.
it's very vulnerable. And the thing is, I think what I've realized is I've wanted to do this like my whole life and I never did. And
Wow.
that's the one thing I think I've always regretted. I remember, and I keep coming back to this. It's funny how like you think of something when you're young and I keep coming back to it. Sometime in like middle school, maybe early high school, my dad had come home with a big block of marble, like this big block. I don't remember where he got it from, but I was like, I'm like, you think I could carve that? And I kept thinking, like, I really want to like work on sculpting that. Like, I really want to try it. And I never did.
Mm.
And it sat out next to my garage for years. I mean, it could probably still be sitting there. I don't know. Who knows if anyone's
Yeah.
ever moved it. I wish I would have done something with it.
Yeah.
And so now that I've had the chance, I'm like, I'm going to do it because it just feels right. I don't know. There's something that just feels right about it. Like it just hits me like in my
Yeah.
soul. And I'm like, why have I waited this long to do it? So,
That's awesome.
uh,
And the like I have such a parallel story with that. Like I didn't learn how to play guitar until I was 30 plus years old.
yeah.
And when I was in seventh grade, I took 2 lessons and said, I hate this. I don't like this old lady teacher. And she was probably like 30, but you're 12
Like
years
we
old.
are.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, like us. Right. You're 12 years old and you're like, I don't want to learn music theory. I just want to play,
I just want to play
AC/DC.
some. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
And
Why can't I start with Nirvana?
yeah. And the
Yeah.
same thought that you have.
Yeah.
And now I'm 48 and I'm working on an album that's coming out
Yep.
right
And I think
probably
that's
as this is
awesome.
going out, but it is vulnerable. You're not wrong.
Oh, it's super vulnerable. You're starting to really expose the real you.
Yes.
And if someone's hard on you,
Whew.
that's like speaking to the real you,
Yeah.
and it's very vulnerable.
Yeah.
But then you gotta get to a point where you're like, it's me. I'm just gonna be me. And if you don't like me, that's fine. But there's
Yeah.
someone out there that's gonna appreciate me, And I've watched you and it's great because I've seen you over the last few years doing this music thing, and I'm always like, yep, you should have been doing that a long time ago. And I could see where it scratches that, like I can see where that's just coming out of the center of your being. And I love it. I love watching you do that. So
Kind. I appreciate it.
yes,
Thank
I
you.
love watching you do that.
Thank you.
So, anyways,
Yeah.
I'm gonna finish that story.
Yeah, please do.
So
Yeah,
the
sorry.
whole
Sorry.
idea.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm actually
Yeah.
not
I
doing
started
that.
talking about me. I'm
No,
sorry.
no, 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 no. I'm actually not doing the art thing. So
Okay.
yeah, so once again, it's the twist. I think it's one of those things where you think you're going to get this job and it's your dream job, and
Yeah.
it doesn't
Been there.
happen, and you're like,
Been there, done that
oh
recently.
man, what's
Yeah.
wrong with me? So after Christmas, same guy, and my buddy Sean, this other guy as well, sort of called me up and they're like, hey, we want to start this other idea that we talked about months ago. Okay. They're like, we want you to run it. Okay. And I had my mind so set on doing this other thing. I'm like, I'm going to do this and it's going to be so good. It's probably the one time in my life to where someone didn't say like, hey, let's start a business. And I wasn't like, yes, let's go for it. It's going to be
Mm.
awesome. I have really been thoughtful and worked into it, which is so unusual. And I think I've come to the conclusion, and I'm actually going to do it. I'm actually going to go the other route. We're starting a new business. It's in the military space.
Okay.
I'm actually really excited about it. It's going to be very cool.
Yeah.
Completely out of my wheelhouse, but I love it just because, once again, problem solving is like
Yeah.
one of those things I love. And I can
You like
see,
to be uncomfortable.
I do, I
Yeah.
do. It's weird. I know. Yeah. Thought about it and I'm like, okay, what would I find fulfilling? Like, obviously, I would find like making pens and doing this other stuff fulfilling. I love it.
Yeah.
Sometimes, though, when you take that stuff and you try to make a living or try to get paid for it,
Mhm.
it's not as fulfilling.
Yeah.
And I think that I'm almost like thinking now, like, I'm just going to keep that my hobby.
Yeah.
I'm going to make stuff. I'm going to give it away. People are going to love it. It's going to be fun.
Yeah.
But I've really sat and examined this other opportunity in terms of, is this right for me? And have gone through all the motions and it's been good. I almost feel like I've taken everything I've learned from 30 years
Yeah.
and sort of put it all into analyzing the situation.
I think when we're
Yeah.
younger, we're so quick, and even recently, I've learned some of this too, Keith, where we're so quick to take every opportunity as
Yep.
an opportunity.
Yep. Yep.
It's hard to say no. It's hard to discern, because it's good to be wanted. It feels good to be wanted, right? And so trying to sift through some opportunities and figure these things out, that's where you're at. And, that's not a bad spot to be.
It's been an awesome life, and I'm just blessed. I love to get to do even remotely what you like to do is a
Yeah.
blessing. So yeah, it was funny because I just came into it saying no. And then thinking of more and more about it, I'm like, yeah, you know what? Actually, like applying all these things I've learned over the years, and it's like, nope, you know what? I actually think this is the right thing for all these reasons. And this other part of me that loves like
Yeah.
the stone and the sculpture and all that, that's just going to be my hobby.
Yeah.
And yeah, so once again, to answer your question, like, what do you do for fun? That's it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I need to keep that. I do need to keep that in my life, though. I need that outlet of,
Yeah.
I need that creative outlet.
Let's do a little word association.
Oh, geez. All right.
Career.
Hot dogs. Um,
Career.
career.
I hate hot dogs, by the way.
Do you really?
I mean, it has to be a good hot dog. I like good
Okay,
hot
so I'll tell you this story real quick. So
dogs. Okay.
yes, your mom did introduce me and my wife. It was a blind date. And I do she should claim responsibility because she's right. First date was to a baseball game, which is actually an amazing first date because
Great date.
you can sit and talk, but you don't have to stare at each other. Like,
Yeah.
and there's something to look at.
Yes.
So I said, hey, you want a hot dog? She's like, yeah, I'll take a hot dog. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna marry her. It was it. It was the hot dog. I'm like, a girl that eats hot dogs, this is awesome. So
And she's a doctor. I mean,
and
you got the best of both worlds.
she'll tell you the same thing. Like, it was the hot dog. So anyways, career, huh?
Career.
Oh, I don't even know. Like, what are you what are you looking for? Another word to match it?
Yeah, word or phrase. I mean,
Um,
that actually almost answers it because you've had such a non-traditional sort of path.
yeah, I think I'm probably the worst person to ask. I think career is just being, this is such a like
It's okay.
soft answer,
That's okay.
but being where you're supposed to be when you're supposed to be.
I'll take it.
And I think it's very true. And I think what you need to learn is to like be cognizant of it's time for a change or it's time to double down. Gosh, we live in a world anymore where you can do anything and you can do it easy. I mean, if you want to make a living doing YouTube, you can, which is crazy.
It is
I
crazy.
mean, but like it's a world where you can do anything and sometimes all those choices are almost overwhelming.
Yeah.
So, and I think more than ever, people need to start really thinking about like, what do I find fulfilling? What am I good at?
Mm.
And hence probably this podcast. I think it's an excellent time to be starting it, honestly. It really is.
Success.
It's not money, I'll tell you that much. Success is fulfillment. It's funny because when I think of the meaning of life, let's just say that is a big question. What's
Yeah.
the meaning of life?
Yeah.
I always come back to James Taylor, and it's enjoying the passage of time.
The secret of life is
Is
enjoying
enjoying the
the
passage
passage of
of
time.
time. And it's very true.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds so cheesy, but I think it's very true. Like, my kids are in high school, getting ready to go to college. You have to enjoy it for what it is. Like, I loved them when they were little. I love it now. Like, you just have to enjoy where life is at. So, success, I think, is being able to do just that.
Any fool can do it. There's no, just,
Well,
there's nothing to
yeah,
it, right?
there's
Yeah.
nothing to it.
Yeah.
Yes, well, that's true, but it's so elusive. You're looking for a bigger answer than that, and I don't think there is.
Failure.
Hmm. Giving up. Failure is awesome. Failure like drives success. Failure is probably the most formative thing you can do in most aspects. Real failure is when you just stop trying, in my mind. Nothing's a failure if you don't stop trying. Sometimes it means pivoting, sometimes it means going to try something else. You learn a lot from failure, you know? You learn a lot from pain.
Well, as a coach, I always said we learned more from losing than we did in wins.
Yes, it's very true. It's very true. I mean, you think about athletes or whatever, they just win the Super Bowl. I'd like to thank God for this. And you're like, yeah, okay, whatever. But like you think of someone laying in a hospital with cancer and they're like, I'd like to thank God for this. You're like,
Ooh,
what? And they're like, but it's the pain that really magnifies it. You're like,
yeah.
you can say that even amongst all this pain.
Money.
Money's a tool. Money is definitely just a tool. Does it make life easier? Yes, it does. It can. It can also make life much harder. Some of the wealthiest people I know are also some of the most generous. Even to one point, I have a friend that just says, like, you know what, God gives it to me, and I just turn around and give it away,
Mm.
and that's it. And you're like, that's cool. But it's a tool. It's a tool. I mean, it's, people think, oh, money's the root of all evil. Not really.
I know.
The
It's the
love of
love
money.
of,
It's
yeah,
not
there it
money. It's the
is.
love, and it could be the love of stamp collecting. That could be the root of all evil also. But it's the love, and
We're
so
always back to the
money's.
stamp collecting.
Yes, back to the stamp collecting. Money's just a tool. It really is.
I'll give you the last word. If you could give one piece of identity, career exploration, piece of wisdom that you've learned to anyone out there, what would it be?
Hmm. I think like if I'm talking to my kids right now.
Could be kids, could be somebody your own
Yeah, I'm
age
just
thinking of starting a business, could be anybody.
yeah. I would say that you were made to be you. Don't be ashamed of it. Embrace it. There's a right answer in there, and just start looking for what's fulfilling to you, because that'll give you the biggest clues of how you were made and what you were made for. And then everything else sort of falls in line from there. I think your ikigai,
Mm-hmm.
the four circles. What was the other ones? Do what you love. That's probably the
Yep.
fulfillment piece.
Yep.
Do what you're good at. Well, I think it's going to lead to that, right? What was the other ones?
What the world needs.
What the world needs. Well, if you're doing what you love and what you're good at, the world obviously needs it. And if the world needs it, you're going to make money.
That's the last one.
So, like, I think it all just leads to itself. So, I would say start with just figure out what you find fulfilling, and you know what? It's a bit of an experiment. And sometimes I've run those experiments to where I'll do something for 6 weeks and I'll be like, is that fulfilling? Okay, I'm gonna go try this. Is that fulfilling? It's the same idea almost as sort of shadowing anymore. And I try to encourage my kids to go shadow as much as they can for different things they're thinking about because you need to sort of dive into stuff. Yeah, I would just tell anyone, you're very unique, and that's awesome. You're awesome just the way you are, and figure out, what makes you awesome, what makes you tick, and you'll figure everything else out.
Thanks for listening to the Caller ID podcast. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe with all of your friends on all of your social media platforms. Thanks again. Signing off, Brandon Davis Wells.